of St. Petersburg hosted a race into the twilight to open the GT America powered by AWS season. Today's race will be run in the full glow of the Floridian sun, shining down on 20 GT3 and GT4 machines here at this twisting 1.8-mile, 14-turn street course. Yesterday saw a dramatic run to the checkered with Jason Daskalos and Ross Schwest taking victory in their respective classes, but they'll face stiff competition if they want to go back-to-back today in race 2 of the 2023 season. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside in this picturesque location. We've got Amanda Busick patrolling the pits for us. Calvin, it was a lot of fun yesterday racing into the night. Conditions a lot different though for race 2 here in the full sunshine of the afternoon.
Yeah, certainly the track is going to be a little bit warmer, Ryan, than we had to deal with last night. It was a wild one last night. Hopefully we have a bit calmer start today, but certainly we got Sofronis on the pole with the Audi, but a host of very fast Mercedes right behind him.
That is the case for sure, and standing down there on the grid in the pit lane is our own Amanda Busick. Hi, Amanda.
Hey guys, and welcome to race number 2 here on the streets of St. Petersburg. It's crazy to think that Indy cars were just on the same circuit just a couple hours ago. They'll qualify here later today, but how cool is this for our drivers? During the pre-grid, we saw a ton of fans just walking by our GT machinery, taking in all of the fabulousnesses that is GT America here in St. Pete. But when I was walking the paddock earlier this morning, I caught a conversation between George Kurtz and James Sofronis, and they were talking about the race at hand today, and I simply asked both of them, why does James Sofronis win this race? And James said to me, well, I have great starting position. I'm hoping for a green flag race. And also with the Audi, he's hoping that the track temps will come to him quicker today. And then with George Kurtz, why does George Kurtz win this race? And he said, I need some luck, maybe a yellow flag, but I love these situations. As you can hear, engines just started here. I do want to point out Jason Daskalos. They had that incident this weekend with the transponder, and then of course with the primary car. They named their cars, and I love this story. The primary car was called Victoria, and with this backup car winning the race yesterday, they now have named it Victoria's Secret. Let's take a look back at Jason's winner interview yesterday. Oh, and look at the wave that he's given his family. And Jason, when you look at the day that you've had, I just want to tell you quickly, though, your mom and dad were on their feet when you'd had that overtake. When you look at the day that this team has had, how will you sum up this win for yourself?
Honestly, it's because of them. I was P1 in early practice. I hit the wall. We switched over to the backup car, but it wasn't ready to race. So they worked their butt off. And it's a testament to them, not to me today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It was a dramatic day, that's for sure, for Jason Daskalos. If he's going to win back-to-back, though, he's going to have to come from the third starting position. There are a lot of Mercedes up at the front, though, but on pole, it is James Sofronis in that new Evo 2 version of the Audi R8. I say new, not new globally, but it's the first time we've seen it in North American competition.
Yeah, I just had a quick chat with James on the grid before the cars rolled, and he had some braking issues in the early going yesterday. On the initial start, on the restart down into turn 1, he said we're blocked off the cooling a little bit, hoping to get those brakes up to temperature. He said if I can survive turn 1, I should be in great shape. I'm really fast through sector 2, but he said the Mercs are very strong.
Well, let's look back on what we saw yesterday. It was an action-packed race. They put a lot into 40 minutes and lost quite a bit of that 40 minutes due to an early incident, which I'm sure we'll see here in just a moment. This is, of course, Jason celebrating that big win. But here's a look at the race 1 highlights. Scott Smithson led the way from pole, Calvin, and it was a great race that broke out, but only for a few corners.
Yeah, you saw the James ran a little bit wide. Kurtz took advantage, and then deep in the pack there, Jeff Burton, big contact, and a few hundred yards later, his teammate, Scott Smithson, from the pole, gets it wrong down in the turn 4 braking zone.
This was the move that won the race for Jason Daskalos in traffic around Memo Gidley. A little bit later, Todd Coleman, who was leading the GT4 field, ended up in the tire barriers, but thanks to that brave maneuver, we saw Daskalos take the lead, held on to win overall. The GT4 field had dramas late. It looked like hometown hero Jason Bell was headed to the checkered flag and the victory on home turf. Instead, he had a puncture, some wall contact, a bunch of things happened, and somehow Ross West emerged as the leader, and he has now won 3 on the trot, going back to 2 wins to cap off the 2022 season back at IMS last October.
Yeah, burst into victory lane at Indy and swept that weekend and continues that role here. He didn't have the pace of Jason Bell or Todd Coleman for that matter, but certainly a great victory to get his championship campaign underway here in 2023. A lot of Aston Martins that are very fast in that GT4 field here this weekend.
No question about it. Now, we saw the incident in those highlights for Jeff Burton. The bad news is the damage was too significant on that car. He will not take part in the racing here today. Here is the starting grid for race 2 of the season. James Safronis will start on pole. Ex-IndyCar driver Memo Gidley will start from the outside of the front row. Row number 2 will see Jason Daskalos, the winner yesterday. He'll have impressive rookie Anthony Bartone starting alongside in P4. Back to the 3rd row, Andy Pilgrim, sports car racing veteran, so many years in Corvettes. He's in a Mercedes here today. He's got a Corvette alongside him, though, with Mirko Schultes in the Callaway Corvette. Back to the 4th row, Andy Wilczak for Flying Lizard Motorsports, back in the championship after a year away. He'll have rookie Alex Vogel to his outside. And then in the final row for SRO 3, George Kurtz and Scott Smithson, 2 front runners that picked up damage in that crash early in race 1 yesterday. They've got a long way to go, starting at the back of the class grid. In GT4, Jason Bell nearly won this race yesterday. He's racing on home turf. He'll have Todd Coleman, who also probably feels like he about won this thing 1 day ago, to his outside. Moise Uretsky, a strong lap in race 1 to move him to 3rd on the starting grid here for race 2. And yesterday's winner Ross West in 4th spot. Gray Newell and Tony Gaples in a repaired Camaro. Gaples had some wall contact late yesterday, but that car is back and ready to go. They start 5th and 6th. Steve Weber and Ken Goldberg, they make up the penultimate row, and the final row of today's race, Nick Shaney and Thomas Johnson. That's the grid of 20 cars, GT3 and GT4 spec, that are about to take the green. The lights are off on that safety car with Mike Stillwagon behind the wheel, and we're about to turn them loose, Cal.
Yeah, and I think for James Safronis, he'll been working that brake pedal against the gas pedal on these formation laps, trying to get some brake temperature generated here when he hits that middle pedal down into turn 1. Memo Gidley to his outside in the TKM Motorsports Mercedes. A nice clean lineup here for the initial start.
Into the VP acceleration zone, and there's the green flag. Race 2 of the weekend and of the season is underway. It's James Safronis in the blue Audi from pole position. He'll guard the inside, but Gidley makes the outside line work. He sweeps around to take the lead. Yeah,
I think Gidley had actually had a premonition that James would be a little bit tentative on that brake pedal, took advantage on the racing line there on the outside, braked a little bit deeper and takes the lead.
Gidley led the early portions of the race yesterday, clean and green through the first couple of quarters, but as I say it, Wilczak puts the power down too hard. He hits the inside wall. Debris scatters everywhere right in front of this GT4 field. I expect we'll see a safety car very soon. Jason Bell consolidating his lead from the pole. Todd Coleman running in 2nd, but apparently under some pressure. Debris on the track, and there is the safety car here in St. Petersburg.
Oh, that's such a shame. Problem area yesterday for Jeff Burton. Now attacks Andy Wilczak there on relatively cold tires. It's a warm day here, ambient in the 80s, but even so, you got to give it a little bit of time to get these Pirellis up to temperature. Andy Wilczak just got caught out there, a little bit bumpy there as you come through turn 3. And he just loses the back end of that Porsche. Big impact there, deeper in the field as you see the rest of the field coming through. Here's our front runners. Then right at the back of the pack, I don't think he got touched. It was George Kurtz right behind him in the CrowdStrike Racing entry. I think he did it by himself there.
Heavy damage to that Porsche 911 Flying Lizard Motorsports. That classic livery on that race car, and Andy, who's back in the series after running a partial schedule back in 2021, will not be happy with the way that this race began. It looks like he is certainly done for the day, and that team will have some work to do to get that car repaired before the next round of the championship at Sonoma.
Had the impact there as well, so hopefully our thought, of course, is that Andy is okay with that incident. The field has a chance to regroup, rethink what they're going to do on this restart. As We suspected James Safronis was certainly a little suspect there on that brake pedal, holds down the second position. So he had a cut and paste view of this yesterday, sat behind Gidley for the second half of the race. The leaders kind of scampered away, Gidley and Daskalos, and then Safronis couldn't find his way by Gidley for second position, but just that, you know, it's a long season, didn't want to take any chances, wanted to keep it clean, but he said he may be a little bit more aggressive here today. There's a few weeks break between now and our next round at Sonoma.
I did see Andy Wilczek walking from his damaged race car to the medical vehicle under his own power. That is certainly good news after a heavy contact with the concrete barrier on the inside of the racetrack. That's right out of turn 3, coming onto that short straightaway, the run down to turn number 4. This has been a difficult spot all weekend long across multiple series. We're talking sports cars, open wheelers. Some of the very best have had problems in this exact corner.
Yeah, there's been some resurfacing, ironically, down that part of the racetrack, but it still sort of like has a little undulation, a little bump as you're really trying to commit to power high speed there on that acceleration run between the exit of turn 3 and turn 4. And the tires aren't quite up to temperature and got full grip. I think that's what may have caught Andy out there.
It's a great crowd on hand here in St. Petersburg, soaking up the sun and the race cars. It's a true festival of motorsport, this Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. It's been growing year on year. Record crowd last year. Early indications are we could be looking at the same here in 2023, and it's wonderful to have high-level sports car racing as part of the product. I think we're going to take a look back at the start of this race, and you called it. James Safronis, he went deep in this very braking zone twice yesterday. A little bit tentative here, and Memo Gidley smelled blood, and he pounced.
He did, and you can see James even then was a little bit twitchy there, trying to get the car rested with its speed down in turn 1. He's on the dirty part of the racetrack, but you see Gidley sideways. Everyone's really loose there, coming off at turn 3, and watch deeper in the pack, second from last car. And he just loses the tail end, tries to correct, but can't escape the wall on the right-hand side.
Just like yesterday, the GT4 field really didn't get much of a chance to do a whole lot of racing prior to the safety car being deployed, so no real change in the running order there. In SRO 3, Gidley leading overall from Daskalos, Bartone up in the 3rd spot, Pilgrim in 4th. At least that's what timing and scoring is showing, but I think we might be having a similar issue we saw yesterday with James Safronis and his transponder occasionally having a glitch. So I think he's actually running up there in 2nd, and in fact that's now been corrected. So it's Gidley from Safronis, Daskalos, Bartone, and Pilgrim. In GT4, Jason Bell from pole, leading Todd Coleman, yesterday's pole sitter, and then Ross Schwest, Moise Uretsky, and Ray Newell, the top 5.
Yeah, so Schwest and Uretsky have switched positions there on that opening lap. They didn't have much time to work with. That was obviously down in the turn 1, turn 2 area before they came up on the Wilczek incident.
How cool to see Memo Gidley back plying his trade for a full season. First time that's been the case since his heavy crash that left him with serious injuries at the 2014 24 Hours of Daytona. It's been a long road back. It took years, really, just to prepare himself to get back in the cockpit. He's had some sporadic starts here and there. We saw him win in the Bentley in this championship a few years back. He's done some prototype racing, too, but a full season in GT America this year.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, he has so much passion for racing. It's been a hard, long road back for him from his injuries from that crippling accident back in 2014 in a prototype machine. But he's got wonderful support by Dave Trattel and the whole TKO Motorsports, which stands for Teaching Kids Options. Wonderful man, David. He's actually going to be making his debut in this championship at Sonoma in that Bentley that Memo was previously campaigned under the TKO Motorsports banner. So just a great group. They've got help from Flying Lizard as well, so they've got a lot of expertise there. Sam White is actually the team manager there. He's got a ton of experience, won so many championships over the years. So there's a lot of knowledge there, and I think they're going to be a definite threat for this championship. He's got the lead in this race right now, but Memo was not real happy with his car yesterday. I spoke to team manager for Flying Lizard, Darren Law, this morning. He said, yeah, we've got to tweak on it a little bit. We're still learning this new Mercedes. Even though we've done some testing, they will get stronger and stronger as this season develops, I feel.
You mentioned Dave Trattel, who's been so important in getting Memo back in the cockpit. Back in 2017, his first time back at a racetrack in a pro race was at the season finale for what was then the Pirelli World Challenge Series, now Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Hopped in a Porsche for this TKO team, and I remember talking to him there, just how thrilled he was to be back doing what he had done for so many years, and the chance to race in a professional paddock. And the build from there has been sporadic. It's been a patient build up to this, but clearly they feel like he's ready to go. And we know this Mercedes platform is going to keep him in a position where he can challenge for race wins.
Well, it's the dominant car in terms of the entry. Certainly we had 7 cars start the weekend. We're down to 6 with Jeff Burton not making today's race, but it's a very comfortable car. I mean, every team, every driver seems to like it, does everything well. It ticks all of the boxes. It's very compliant over the bumps. It's got great braking ability, good torque and power down off the corners. So it's a really, really nice race car.
Let's check in with Amanda down in the pit lane.
I was talking to Mimo Gidley's team about that start here heading into turn number 1, and as imagined, it was very rehearsed this morning. He was ready to pounce all over James Sofronis. And talking to James this morning as well, he was kind of concerned with his performance yesterday and did not want to see that happen today. But Mimo actually was having some handling issues yesterday in the Mercedes. His team was saying that that's why he was having such a hard time in traffic and keeping people behind him. And when I talked to Mimo on the download from the race yesterday, he said it was such an intense night of racing for him that he didn't even see the checkered flag and went full speed for one more lap around the streets here of St. Petersburg. But just high expectations, a big smile on Mimo this morning as we kicked off this race.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. Really cool to see him back in this position, but maybe he is one of the examples. We talked to George Kurtz earlier in the weekend. He's, of course, the reigning champion, and he said, my goodness, the competition this year, this is going to be something else. You're looking around and you see ex-IndyCar drivers, ex-GM factory drivers that are racing in this championship, and there's no question that the challenge has just elevated one year to the next.
Yeah, he realizes the championship title is not going to come as easy maybe as it did last year. He scored 10 victories, really the dominant player in the championship. Certainly Daskalo's kept him honest during the early part of the season anyway. And now with Jason in a similar Mercedes, you got Mamo there. I mean, Andy Pilgrim, Bartone, the Bartone brothers pair of Mercedes run by Real Time. 101 victories from that team over the years in World Challenge competition. So a lot of great teams and drivers, and it's going to be a fun season to watch.
No question about it. Still under the safety car, single car accident involving Andy Wilczek, the Flying Lizard Motorsports Porsche. The cleanup continues. Let's look back at the GT4 start here, Cal. Haven't had a chance to see this yet. Here's Jason Bell from pole in the black and yellow Aston, grabbing the lead. Coleman right behind. Very sanitary here to get started.
Yeah, Schwess got in there a little bit deep, may have actually got into the ABS, but what it did, it actually took him alongside Uretsky, and he cleared him by the time they got to the turn 1 apex. See, the yellow flags are flying for that incident a little bit further ahead with the GT3 start.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see coming around that corner, that turn 3 right there, and you've got a car off to the side, but a wheel in the middle of the racetrack. You see the yellow flags, you see the debris flags, but you don't exactly know what's awaiting you around that blind corner, and that's part of street course racing.
It is, and that's where you really need your team to be on the ball as well. Get on the radio, give you that communication. Big incident, exit at turn 3, so that the drivers can be cautious and give themselves a little bit of time to change direction. But had a coffee, and he's actually drinking orange juice. He doesn't need to be any more fired up than he normally is with Jason Bell this morning. He's drinking orange juice, and he was fired up. He's so disappointed yesterday. He said, you know, I've thought about it. Podium finish with a cut-down tire. Still good points on the board, but he said, I want to win here today, so I want to show them I'm the fastest man here. But he and Todd Coleman are very evenly matched, with Todd making the move over from the Supra to the Aston Martin this year. He showed a lot of confidence yesterday as well, and great pace.
Todd has really turned a page, it appears, from last year to this year. Ran a partial schedule 1 year ago, and including some of the Pirelli GT4 America 2-driver race format races. Comes from a Ferrari Challenge background and has made the switch. He ran the Supra last year, now making that switch over to the Aston Martin, and has instantly looked at home in that car.
He really has. He still has Aaron Telitz, who co-drove with him in the Toyota last year, coaching him here this weekend. He's going to team up with Billy Johnson for GT4 America. And he switched teams as well, not only switched cars, he switched to Archangel, led by a great pro in terms of a leader, Michael Johnson. So much experience, so many championships under that team's belt. So things are clicking right now. They certainly seem to have made a big step up since last year.
Quickly back to the pits and Amanda.
You guys both talking about Jason Bell and Todd Coleman. I was able to sneak by both teams this morning and talking to Todd. He said the theme coming into this season was redemption of last season, and he said, well, this Sunday now it's all about retribution. Definitely in his head about the driver error that he had on track yesterday. The team themselves were here until 2 a.m. getting the race car back ready for performance here today. And Jason Bell, it was a puncture. He thinks he picked it up around turn 4 yesterday in that last lap. Just a disappointing way for Jason Bell to end the race. Said that those hurt a lot more than others. But you guys will go back to the drivers meeting that we had with Brian Till earlier in the week, and he stressed the importance of maintaining your GPA this season. Jason said that really hit him strong, and the idea that he was able to get a P3 finish yesterday and thinking of the season ahead was enough that he needed to have his mentality to get back into this race car looking for the win. Possibly here in race number 2 like he did last season. And then to Ross West, for him to be able to take advantage of what was happening in front of him yesterday. Let's take a look back at Ross's winner's interview as a new father. Ross, it was almost like the seas parted for you on the last lap to get the win here. It is your first one as a father. How does that sound?
It sounds great. You know, say hi to my wife Bailey back home and my baby Vivian. She's watching back home with her old racing outfit and or checkered flag gear. So say hi to them. But the boys did a great job. Halfway through the race, I couldn't quite find the speed. It became very challenging as the lights went out and the concrete everywhere. Actually, I clipped my other side mirror and it hit in. And then I said I can't clip these corners so close. And right after I grazed my right front and I had a bit of a wobble in the wheel, but I was concerned about even finishing the race and coming up on traffic. I saw an opportunity, I just jumped on it.
It was a phenomenal win for Ross, and it's 3 in a row if you go back to the end of the season last year. Won the last 2 races to win the championship in GT America in the GT4 class. Going back to Jason Bell, though, I think he's got the right outlook on this. 3rd place isn't a win, and it looked like he had a win in the bag, but it could have been a lot worse. When he had the puncture, then picked up some damage, he was still able to secure 3rd place points. Remember, he only lost the championship by 6 points 1 year ago, so he knows how tight these margins can be.
And this is the championship that he's focused on for this year. Last year he had a dual program with he and Andrew Davis running in GT4 America, so this is what he's going to focus on this year. He may encounter a couple of other events as the season progresses, see how things shape up, but this is his focus. It's a 9-event championship, 18 races, and he realizes if he's going to win this championship, much like GT3, we talk about George Kurtz coming back, trying to repeat as a champion. He knows our 2021 champion, Jason Bell in GT4, that it's going to be a tough sled, a lot of really strong teams this year, and points are so important right from the get-go.
So that is Jason Bell there leading the GT4 field. Todd Coleman behind him, then Ross West. So 3 of the protagonists certainly in the race yesterday. Ahead of them, though, is the CrowdStrike Mercedes of George Kurtz. And this cannot be what he wanted. These are short races, only 40 minutes. Remember, he was caught up in an accident early in race 1 yesterday. That's important today because the fastest lap from race 1 sets the grid for race 2. So he had to start at the back of the SRO 3 field, and because we run under yellow, he has not been able to make any real progress up this field.
No, it's certainly not going to make it an easy task for him. We're probably going to be looking at about 20 minutes to go by the time we get back to green flag racing here, as the track sweepers are still out there cleaning up the debris field from the turn 3 exit there. So yeah, it's going to force him to maybe get a bit more aggressive earlier. He probably felt with 40 minutes to play with, he could probably sneak up into the top 5, maybe a podium. I think a win was going to be a stretch, but even so, that certainly has been challenged even more, as you say, with a shortened race here under green flag conditions.
We remain behind the safety car, a single car incident on the first lap. Andy Wilczok for Flying Lizard Motorsports appeared maybe just put the power down a bit too hard on cold tires. No tire warmers, it's worth noting, in GT America powered by AWS. That's different than what you see in Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS, which will make its season debut at Sonoma coming up in a month or so.
To Andy's defense, you could see everyone slipping and sliding coming through turn 3. Our leader, Gidley, was very sideways, very crossed up coming through there. Everyone else, Safronis included, was having a bit of a slide, so Andy just got caught out there a little bit, unfortunately.
It happens, and there is no margin for error on a street circuit. And we've heard from some drivers this weekend that say, frankly, it spooks me a little bit. Others absolutely love the concrete canyons. You raced here in St. Petersburg, Calvin. Slightly different layout back then, but what was your opinion? What did you think about street courses?
I like street courses. I love the challenge. I love the fact that you couldn't go test there. You had to sort of like show up and do your deal, and the margins are small, but it's all about confidence. And I think if you're intimidated by it, you want to give a bit more margin to those walls. That basically decreases the radius and the speed you can roll through there. So you've got to use every inch of the racetrack, but you've got to pick your moments, and certainly getting some tire temperature and getting a couple of laps under your belt. But for guys like George Kurtz now, what is he thinking behind the wheel? How aggressive, how early am I going to get after and start to challenge some of these cars in front of me? Otherwise, a podium run might be out of the question by the time the checkered flag falls here today.
Marco Schultes back in the Callaway Corvette for a second season, and that car is fresh back on U.S. soil. It was sent over to Germany for a complete refresh after last year's championship completed, and they've not had any time with it on the track until they showed up here in St. Pete, right?
Yeah, similar to last year, they got the car here late, right, and got it out there and had a great year. I think the car's gone back to Germany, as you said, had a full rebuild, no updates because it's all homologated, so it's the same car essentially underneath him. He's got this new mother's polish livery, and he said, everyone keeps coming up and telling me how great the livery is. He said, I like it, but he loved the yellow and blue colors that traditionally he's always run, so he's kind of torn a little bit about what the fans are enjoying here this weekend.
A real passionate participant, Marco Schultes.
Look
loves
at Safronis.
his GM.
Safronis is ready. He is ready to try and pounce here on Gidley. Rolls are reversed here a little bit. Gidley may have to go a little bit defensive with his line, and that's the dirty part of the racetrack down into turn 1. Here we go.
Safety car is in. The VP acceleration zone is here. There's the green flag, and Memo Gidley has built a gap over James Safronis. Behind, yesterday's winner, Jason Daskalos, takes a look to the inside, but settles back in line. It's single file throughout the SRO3 field, but it looks like it might have been fanning out in GT4. Gidley showing the way, though, through turns 2 and 3.
Soda can there on the side of the racetrack, blown away around there as they came through turn 2, which shouldn't be a problem. Daskalos looks down the inside. Safronis protect. Gidley, nice opening lap here, has pulled the other cars by about 2 to 3 car lengths.
And here we go. This is the back of SRO3. So Vogel and Kurtz, who is languishing there. Here's a battle. Uretsky, the brightly colored Aston, going side by side with Schweston. Around goes Coleman. Might have been some contact there, and it happens in front of the bulk of the GT4 field.
Damage to Schwest's car. He's in the wall big time. Left front was crumpled there with the hit. Had no turning ability on that race car, so I think it's got everyone fired up here a little bit, knowing the race is relatively short in duration here to the checkered flag. Got really aggressive in that GT4 field as they went through that turn 4-5 area.
Just past the halfway mark, and the safety car surely will be deployed. There it is. Heavy contact and a lot of damage. You could tell that vehicle was already stricken for Ross Schwest, and I'm not sure he knew just how bad it was. Ended up making heavy contact with the wall, and several front-running GT4 cars were caught up in that melee.
Yeah, I think Jason Bell was ahead of it. Coleman was certainly, everyone got really aggressive in the turn 4 brake zone, trying to defend there and not give the position away. Then it all got a little bit ugly with Coleman eventually getting turned as they got through the turn 5, that really tightest part of the racetrack, really, to try and coexist. And then with that incident, Schwest here had some front suspension damage and no turning ability with the cars. Take another look at it. It's Uretsky there. And then Schwest dives to the inside of Coleman. Just 2 into 1 doesn't go in that part of the racetrack. And then watch the left front there is completely askew there on Schwest's car as he now tries to get through turn 7.
Might not have realized that was the case. Looked like he was trying to drive away from that incident as if everything was normal, but certainly couldn't get that car wound up.
Doesn't
ends
take
up with
much
heavy
of a hit
damage.
when you got the wheel outside of the fender and it suddenly gets hit. There's a lot of load that comes back through those steering arms and it breaks those pretty quickly, and then he just had nothing, no one at home on the left front when he asked for some turning as he got to the next corner, unfortunately.
This is great news for Memo Gidley. He continues to lead behind the safety car, and indications are we might have a fairly lengthy cleanup. Our hope is that everyone involved in that incident is all right. We'll get an update to you as soon as we have the information. But Gidley leads Safronis. Daskalos looked like he was ready to pounce if given the opportunity, and forced Safronis, who coming to the restart looked like he wanted to be the aggressor. So he was quickly turned into the defender because of what Daskalos was doing behind him.
Well, I think they've tried to work on the cooling, trying to get a bit more temperature into those Audi brakes, but I think it's in James' head a little bit. He knows he's vulnerable right there. I think Gidley knows it too. He could see that from the opening laps yesterday, and he pounced on the initial start and felt like he could take his Mercedes in there a little bit deeper. Daskalos, we saw yesterday, just the most aggressive driver in this GT3 field. I certainly felt he wanted it more than anyone else. That's how I think he got the victory yesterday. He wanted it more. Everyone else maybe being a little bit more circumspect and conservative for the opening round of the championship.
Get another view of this accident here. This is already the damaged Roche West car coming right at us. And there was no hope of making that corner with the wheel askew the way that it was.
Gray Newell making some nice moves amongst the melee, just like yesterday, finished P2. He's now up to P2 again, starting P5 in this race. He's now sitting there behind our GT4 leader, Jason Bell.
That's a great point. He's been opportunistic. Gray Newell, still relatively new to this game, but he's picking up seat time everywhere he can. He ran a 24-hour race in Dubai in the off-season, racing in a GT3 Mercedes. He's been primarily racing Aston Martins, but running in a Mercedes. That was in a program branded with Heart of Racing. They certainly were involved. It was half Heart of Racing, and then SPS Automotive Performance. They've been a big-time player the last couple of years in GT3 racing in Europe. They provided some other support, and it sounds like they've got big plans to collaborate more later on this year, including a trip to Mugello here shortly and the CrowdStrike 24 Hours in Spa later this year.
Yeah, it's a busy team. They've got their footprint in a bunch of championships, won a big 24-hour race at Daytona earlier this year. They have an entry for Le Mans. They're on the reserve list, so they'd like to be there this year as well. So Ian James leads that. He will co-drive with Gray Newell in GT4 America. He's here this weekend, team manager for Heart of Racing, and a great racer himself, the Englishman, Ian James. We used to call him the young Englishman. He's more middle-aged, elder statesman, I think, these days. But
Ian, it was Calvin that said that, not Ryan. Just to make that clear. Here is Andy Pilgrim, saying Andy Pilgrim in a Mercedes. He's going to take some getting used to. He was in the Ferrari, of course, last year. That was the much older version of the Ferrari, the 458, now 2 generations ago, because, of course, Ferrari's rolled out the 296 now. That we'll see in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS later on this year. But stepping over, driving that Mercedes, and I think he too is one that if he adapts to that car, and there's no reason to believe he wouldn't, should have a very good chance to win a bunch of races and challenge for a title.
he's really just the perfect leader for that team, for young Anthony Bartone to really just soak up and absorb all of the experience that Andy has. He's now living nearby Anthony in Miami, just coaching him, training with him. I mean, Anthony himself has gone through this massive fitness regime. He's lost over 100 pounds in weight to get ready for this championship season. He's lost that weight over the course of 12, 15 months. And he's a really nice young man. And I think for Andy Pilgrim, who's known the Bartone family for a number of years, decades, in fact, this is a great fit. And with Nathan Bonneau and P.D. Cunningham at the helm of the real-time racing organization, they're with a great camp. And I think they're going to have a lot of fun this year with these Mercedes.
And Andy's been really impressed with what Anthony's been able to do behind the wheel in testing, considering the limited experience that he has. While we run under the safety car, more from the pits and Amanda.
The E-Structure Aston Martin of Todd Coleman did make its way into pit lane during that incident with Roche West. The right-hand mirror got folded in, so they just wanted to come back out to have that for safety. But I talked to Mike Johnson a little bit as I got over here, and he was talking Todd through the rest of this race, and they're looking at, in terms of time left on the clock, thinking that they can get him into at least a P5 finish. Said his driver was understandably upset based on what happened yesterday. And when talking to Roche West's team right before the incident, as Ross was trying to get around Todd Coleman, right after the incident, he was on the phone or on the radio with his team and said, "I have a puncture," and they were like, "No, you don't have a tire." But unfortunate incident in the GT4 class, and I know Ross will want to move on down the road to Sonoma after, though, a win here yesterday.
No question, an up-and-down weekend for Roche West. Ends in a heavy impact into the concrete barriers, and there's the car up on the hook. The cleanup is starting to come to a conclusion. Saw a lot of speedy dry down to absorb the fluid. That's such an important part of the cleanup process here. Down to just over 12 minutes to go, so time certainly at a premium for those that aren't in the position they'd like to be here at this stage.
And that's not a great dynamic, right? Because everyone's going to be antsy, realizing that time is running out to make a move, so that just gets everyone a bit more up on the wheel and a bit more aggressive. But I think if we can get a lap under our belts, I think things will settle down, and hopefully we'll see some good racing for the few minutes that we have left here today.
It certainly was the case in the second half of the race yesterday. Had the incident on lap 1, lost about 15 minutes of the race due to that incident, but as soon as it went green the full way, and we saw really good battles in both classes, SRO 3 and GT4.
This championship was so much fun last year, Ryan. I think when we see the competition level ramping its way up for 2023, I'm excited about what we're going to see. When you come to a street circuit, they're tough. We're going to run at Nashville as well, so if there is a mistake, typically it's a big one. And we've seen that a couple of times already here today. So it's unfortunate, and there's a lot of effort that goes in through the off-season to be prepared for these opening rounds of the championship season, and no one wants to see us behind the safety car for the amount of time we have today, but that's the nature of the business that we're in.
Certainly so. This particular street course here in St. Petersburg, it's been run in this configuration since 2005, but an event here in St. Pete goes back to the mid-'80s. The first event was held in 1985.
I was here for 86, and well, I was here for that event to watch, and they actually used to go out on that pier on First Avenue, and the Atlantic cars could barely get the cars turned around. If you try to make a move down the inside into that hairpin, you couldn't make it. But people still, for some reason, thought they could.
Now, you didn't.
And, I wasn't racing that year, so when I came in 86 and 87 in Atlantics, that was not part of the racetrack. That was not a good idea, so they rethought that. But it used to go a lot further down the road before you make the turn in turn 9. You used to come down there. That used to be a really high-speed chicane. It was a wonderful track. I mean, the front straightaway was different. Basically, where the pit lane is used to be the front straight, and where the front straightaway is used to be pit lane. So turn 1, 2, 3 used to be really quick, like fourth gear, really thread the needle in an Atlantic car. It was a fun track. I love coming here, and it's just such a wonderful setting. It's great to come back over 3 or 4 decades and see the city develop as well. So many beautiful restaurants, great nightlife here, and the settings we saw last night with the marina is really superb.
Yeah, no question about it. That configuration, by the way, that Calvin referenced, that ran from 85 to 90. It went away for a while. A different configuration was used out by Tropicana Field for 2 years in 1996 and 1997. Then the event went away again, came back in 2003 for Champ Car, had a year away. Then what was then known as the IRL came for their first ever non-oval event, actually, in 2005. That's the one that famously, it went Andretti 1, 2, 3, 4, a feat that I don't believe has ever been repeated since then in IndyCar competition, and that's the same track layout.
What were the flags of the nationalities of the drivers that day?
Oh,
Brian,
boy.
Please,
well, let's see. Tony Kanaan, Brian Herta, Dario Franchitti, and I can't think of the fourth offhand. You're really putting me on the spot here, Calvin.
Oh, you got it. That's good.
Well, it's 3 or 4.
Oh, I was going to
throw
you under the bus there, but it's tough to do with you.
Well, I didn't give the flags, in fairness. We would have had, what, 1 Union Jack, 1 American flag, 1 Brazilian flag, and who am I missing? I have to work on that. In any event, this has become a fan favorite, and the event has grown year on year.
It was Melbourne.
It was. Very
He's
good.
got a street named after him. Yeah, this was his hometown.
indeed, his adopted hometown. So Dan Weldon Way, I think he's right around turns 11 and 12 on the track, if I'm not mistaken. Named for the late, great Dan Weldon, two-time Indy 500 winner and IndyCar champion who we lost far too soon.
Yeah, great personality. I was good buddies with Dan, and it's great to see his two sons now continuing in racing. They're very avid karters, and Susie, his wife, has been supporting that. And, great to see the Weldon name continuing in racing, and I think down the road, a few more years, we'll see those boys probably in single-seater ranks on the road to Indy Formula One, I think.
There is the SRO Paddock Club, a fantastic vantage point this year, just on the outside of turn number 1. Might be the most coveted vantage point at the circuit. A lot of folks have been poking around trying to figure out how they can get up there. Provides a great view of this GT America powered by AWS race, which is about to get going once again. Under 8 minutes to go as Memo Gidley leads the field to the green flag. He's in the VP acceleration zone, and there is the green. Sofronis able to keep up a little bit better than he was the first time. Daskalos again takes a peek to the inside, but settles back in line.
Kurtz deep in the field, gets around Vogel there. You are allowed now, with the rules have changed on the restarts. Once the flag is out, you can start racing immediately. You don't have to wait for the start-finish line.
That is different from what we've seen in this series in years past. The start procedure has also changed, but we really haven't seen that affect things to this point. Here's the fight a little bit further back here. We've got Schultes coming through. He's got Smithson behind him. There's Kurtz, who has gotten past Vogel. Vogel gets loose, spins in front of the GT4 leaders. Bell is still leading. It looks like Uretsky finds that as a chance to get around the outside of Newell, and I think that's for the second spot.
It is. I think Newell there had to check up with the Porsche in his way, and that allowed Uretsky to get a little bit aggressive there and go side by side through turn 5 and grab that position. Jason Bell well down the road, though.
How about Kenneth Goldberg? He's up to the 4th spot in that brightly colored BMW M4, running in the 4th position. Back to the front of the field, though. It's still Gidley, Sofronis, and Jason Daskalos. 1, 2, 3. Then we drop back, and the rookie, Anthony Bartone, stepping into GT3 competition for the first time and looking right at home, running just off the podium.
Really solid there. His teammate Andy Pilgrim right behind him. Both cars in the top 5. So Sofronis has got the bit between his teeth. He knows he doesn't have many laps or many minutes to deal with here to try and get that lead away from Gidley. But he's where he wanted to be. He's got through this opening lap, didn't lose too many positions. Now he's on the attack. Gidley has to go defensive here.
Oh yeah, Sofronis sees a chance. He sends it in deep, working the outside of Gidley, but Gidley's got that tighter radius. He's able to make it work in the Mercedes. Daskalos tries to plot a path past Sofronis, but can't get the job done just yet.
Through this tight section, Gidley could really play a game and almost back James up towards Daskalos, so suddenly he's looking in his rearview mirror, the rearview facing camera as well at the same time. High speed, flat out through here. This is the king down towards turn 10, heavy brake zone. This is where Gidley lost the position yesterday to Daskalos, the lead of the race.
Yeah, this is the same trio that fought for the lead for the duration of the race yesterday. Daskalos prevailed over Gidley. Sofronis was 3rd 1 day ago. He's done 1 spot better, but he's got his eyes set on yet another win in SRO competition. The veteran of over 300 starts has just 5 minutes to pass the ex-IndyCar driver Memo Gidley.
He really carved that final corner very well. That Audi has a lot of front downforce. You see all the dive planes indicated by that little white sort of color there on the front end of that car, gives him the downforce. Now he's got to really just time this, see if he can come out and burst out of acceleration zone, out of this corner, and be in position into the brake zone. Gidley knows it. Here comes Sofronis down to the inside. Dirty part of the racetrack, has to give it up.
Oh, there were questions about those brakes coming into today. He had some issues in race 1 yesterday, but he was able to get it wound up. Sofronis couldn't get to the inside of Gidley, who was able to guard that middle lane and really force Sofronis into a dirty part of the racetrack.
Yeah, I think if Sofronis could get by him, he's got a faster race car, but Gidley uses every ounce of experience here to try and keep him behind. 4.5 minutes to go. Sofronis on the attack. Where does he make his move?
Gidley may have a lot of racing experience. I'm not sure he's got the GT experience that James Sofronis has. He's been doing this since the mid-90s in what was then World Challenge, now SRO America. James Sofronis is stalking Memo Gidley. Yet another lap goes by. 4 minutes to go, and Gidley hanging on to the lead.
Daskalos keeping Sofronis honest as well for that P2 position. Looks like Gidley's just got a little bit more straightaway. You would think that James being in the draft there should kind of hunt him down, but up front in GT4 is Jason Bell looking for another win on home turf.
Wojciech Jurecki had a couple of podiums in GT4 here last year. I was a bit surprised at how quiet he was in race 1 yesterday. Nothing quiet about the paint scheme on that second-placed Aston, the teal and yellow car, chasing Jason Bell, who came, what, 1 lap away from victory yesterday here on home turf. And he's got a big lead right now in GT4, up over a second.
Yeah, and he's got about 200 guests, family and friends here this weekend. Met his wife Daniela here this morning at breakfast as well. Lovely lady, and they're really pumped up to try and get this victory in front of their family and friends here this weekend. He's just got to hit his marks right now. Healthy lead. Jurecki trying to defend now from Gray Newell for that P2 position in GT4.
Jurecki, who comes to GT racing from MX5 Cup, has quite a bit of experience there. This accelerating performance team, certainly veterans of that as well, but they've stepped into touring car racing and now GT4 racing and looking very strong. He holds second, but Gray Newell has designs on grabbing that spot here in the final 3 minutes.
Up front here, Gidley and Sofronis have gapped Daskalos a little bit. Sofronis just trying to figure it out. He's got the confidence on the brake pedal. The car looks to be performing better now. He's got the temperature into this Audi, which he says he really needs. Warmer conditions here than we had last evening, of course, with the sun setting, and the track conditions were certainly cooling off a little bit in the late going.
Tom Gidley, though, had a better run through 2 and 3, really not under much duress at all into the braking zone for 4. Sofronis there within, just a couple of feet of the diffuser of the Mercedes. Oh, he got wide into the dust.
He did. Really attacking, total commitment there, caught it nicely. That was in the danger zone. You almost back it into that next corner there, as deep as he got in there and as wide as he was. You're turning in, suddenly that left rear is in the dust.
The top 2 have dropped Daskalos, who won last night. He runs now a somewhat distant 3rd, but still is there to pick up the pieces if it all comes to grief. Coming down to what looks like the penultimate lap. 1 minute, 40 seconds to go. Should be time for a couple more, and Jurecki is in the tire barriers. That's from 2nd place.
Yeah, turn 4, that's been the problem area as well for particularly the GT4 cars. Saw a lot of contact there yesterday. Should it be white flag next time through, I think?
I think so too. They're running laps down around 1:14 are these leaders. Gidley that time at 1:14.2. Sofronis just a 1/10 of a second off, and I think we saw where he lost it when he ran wide just a couple of quarters from here and kicked up all that dust.
This is where the Audi is really good. He says the front end is really strong, very positive. He can really carve these corners. Traffic up ahead. Does Sofronis use his experience here? Can he use that Porsche as a pick? Gidley is thwarted here. Sofronis goes with him. Vogel tries to stay wide there and out of the leader's way. Here comes Daskalos.
Daskalos certainly held up there on quarter exit by the waylaid Porsche of Alex Vogel. It looked like it was pretty even in terms of getting through that traffic between these two. Gidley feeling the pressure. You saw him ease to the inside just to cover off that lane, and he'll fend off Sofronis at least for 1 more corner.
Yeah, they got a lap and a bit to go, so if Sofronis is going to get this first victory of the year, he's got to make it stick here somehow. Look how he kind of does that late apex there, tries to diamond off the corner, get on the power a little bit earlier, but I think the Mercedes just has a little bit more straightaway speed. I think the Audi is pretty heavy on downforce, that's why it's carving the corners, but down this front stretch here, looked like Gidley gaps him and takes the pressure off as Gidley gets to the brake pedal.
The white flag waves, just 14 corners to go. Memo Gidley leading James Sofronis. All of a sudden, Jason Daskalos is back in the picture as well. He might have been just lying back and preparing. We've got Johnson here in a GT4 Mercedes that the leaders are going to have to deal with before it's all said and done.
Gidley. Oh, that clears him nicely. That's a great job there by that lap traffic to get out of the way on a difficult part of the racetrack. It's so narrow through there. When you're getting out of the way, be so careful with the marbles. Oh, Gidley really wide there as they came through turn 9. Nearly into the fence.
Now the high-speed left-handed kink into the final good passing chance. Turn number 10, Gidley guards the inside. Now swings back to the outside. Keeps Sofronis behind him. Now it's just a quick dash through the right, left of 11 and 12 and into the braking zone for the final sequence, 13 and 14.
Gidley's got to protect that inside lane. He does so. He's on the apex. He should have the power down ability to get to the checkered flag.
James Safronis threw everything he had at Memo Gidley, but Gidley prevails. Memo Gidley holds off James Safronis to take race 2 of the weekend at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Here in GT4, it's Jason Bell on home turf. He's got no pressure whatsoever. After misfortune befell Moisey Uretsky just a couple of laps ago, Gray Newell sits in a distant second spot, and Jason Bell now just a couple of corners away from a very popular victory on home soil.
No pun intended, right? He had no pressure yesterday, but it was in the tire in terms of that tire going down. But he's going to rebound here nicely. Podium run yesterday, looking for the first win of the year.
The 2021 GT America GT4 champion. He won race 2 of the weekend last year. He'll repeat it again this year. Jason Bell wins race 2 here on his home racetrack at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Oh, and problems again late for Todd Coleman. He was on a recovery drive after being spun, it appeared, earlier in the race.
It's turn 9, coming towards Bayshore Drive, I believe.
And he had made some progress up the GT4 field.
Sometimes when you see a car off, there's a ricochet, you clip the inside apex and it just sends you across the road.
Boy, what a weekend for Todd. Had pole for race 1. Looked like he had a shot to win. Spun while leading yesterday in race 1 of the weekend. Instead, ends up with no points of any significance to speak of, despite showing great pace. Here is your eBoost Hard Charger Award winner, Scott Smithson. This is an award that goes to the driver that picks up the most positions over the course of the race. Scott was able to drive his way up to 6th place after starting at the very back of the SRO 3 grid here in race 2 of the weekend. So gained, I think, about 5 spots in the race today. Well, it took a little while to get going, Calvin, but I'd say it was worth the wait.
It was a thriller. And just this competition is so tough. We see George Kurtz there finishing in P8 in class. So even though he's one of the faster cars here all weekend, not the sort of point scoring weekend he was looking for. 0-point score yesterday, just a few on the board today.
So Gidley with a win today and 2nd yesterday. I believe that would put him very early in the going into the championship lead. Daskalos puts together a win and a 3rd. Then James Safronis, a 3rd and a 2nd. So those 3 should be awfully close on points going into the next round of the season. That will be at Sonoma Raceway. Full complement of SRO America Championships there, including the debut of the Toyota GR Cup as well. Really excited to have them under the SRO umbrella this year. Sounds like upwards of 30 cars set for the full season in that series debut. But right now the focus is on GT America, powered by AWS, and your overall winner is that man, Memo Gidley, back in victory lane, where he has been so many times in his illustrious career.
Yeah, as a mega drive, he really used every ounce of experience there to place that car in exactly where he needed it. He knew he had a little bit of a straight line speed advantage on the Audi, so it was all about just not making that mistake, not sliding the car, not opening up one of the entries to the corners. So 2 of the vets there. Gidley wins and Safronis right on his tail. It's going to be an exciting championship. Daskalos in the backup car. Spoke to Nick Short with CRP, who runs that organization. He said this engine is really tired. It really needs to be refreshed, but it didn't deter Jason from getting the win here yesterday and following up with a podium here today.
How about this? Your CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race to Anthony Bartone. Impressive stuff for the rookie. Down to victory circle and Amanda.
Oh, well, the winner, Memo Gidley, just chatting along with James Safronis about how fun that racing was for them. His team's just made it in. And Memo, I talked to you before the race, and you were saying how intense yesterday was. I'm pretty sure the tears. Yeah. I see them. Yeah. You described yesterday as the intensity of it. How do you describe this one?
Today was every bit the same as yesterday, except we didn't have darkness. But the restarts, I mean, people can't imagine, but when there's a restart, the tires seem warm, but you're like a deer on linoleum out there. You're sliding all over the place, and it's like a 50-50 chance if you're going to hit the wall or keep going. And then James, wherever he is, he was right on me, and so I couldn't like just backpedal a little bit. I had to go. So it was super intense. like one-lap sprint races. That's what it was.
Just quickly, how long did you plot turn 1 this morning for yourself?
Quite a bit, yeah, turn 1 and also the restarts, because I knew James was going to be faster there. He rolls around the corner really nice. And so between turn 1, I knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to be a little later than him, but it's so slick when you get out wide. As I saw or found out, I was just on the edge. The TKO car went wide, you know, across the middle. There was nothing I could do. It just sort of grimace and then try and get pointed in the right direction. Ended up first in the first turn, so that worked out really well for TKO.
Congratulations and welcome back.
Thank you, guys.
Not sure a driver with less experience would have picked up on some of those intricacies, but
Deer on linoleum.
I'm going to steal that one, Memo. All apologies, but
Heard of Calvin Fish with 2 gin and tonics and new shoes, but
yeah, we saw that. We've seen that from time to time. Memo Gidley, your race winner in race 2 of the weekend, edging Sofronis by less than a second. 7/10 of a second, in fact, the difference between a win and the runner-up spot. Jason Daskalos, Anthony Bartone, and Andy Pilgrim, 4th and 5th. Pretty solid debut for that Bartone Brothers Racing operation, run, of course, by Real Time. And Anthony, in particular, really impressive this weekend.
it was a great debut. He really kept his nose clean, got unfortunately wrapped up a little bit in an incident. Just had a quick spin late yesterday with some GT4 traffic, but excellent run. He'll be pumped with that fast lap, and he'll go on to Sonoma with a lot more confidence.
Decent bounce back from yesterday, all things considered, for Scott Smithson to get up to 6th. George Kurtz in a big hole here to try and dig out of after the DNF yesterday, and just 8th here in race 2. And should mention once again, the race winner, Jason Bell, and Amanda is with him, our GT4 winner in race 2.
Well, congratulations to Jason Bell. We know I don't want to have you waiting for the 200 people that are here to celebrate, but Jason, talking to you ahead of the race here today, you weren't even really concerned about yesterday's issues. You knew what ride was underneath you, what you had here today, but just to bounce back and keep your mentality up, how do you do that?
Man, it was tough. I would say Flying Lizard gave me a really good car. And yesterday I knew what I had, and obviously you could see, and then we had some unfortunate luck, but we actually got lucky and finished the race. So today, starting on pole, I just wanted to concentrate forward, not behind me, and it was kind of a tough race, you know, with a couple of crashes, but I'd rather race than ride around on a caution lap. But we got 6-7 laps at the end, and I showed what the car could do, so I feel good.
How does one celebrate with 200 people?
Well, I have the meat market over there, about to cook for 100 people in our Flying Lizard tent, so that's how we do it. And a bunch of other stuff later, and you know, maybe a couple of beers, and that's it.
Congratulations, Jason.
Great start to the partnership with Flying Lizard, moving over here to start this year and showing that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Highlights from our second and final race of the weekend.
Well, big move here. We get to the brake pedal. Gidley, I think he thought about it. He knew that James Sofronis was a bit vulnerable. Takes it to the outside, would never relinquish that lead throughout the course of this race, despite a couple of restarts. Big moment here. Everyone sliding through that turn 3 area, but deeper in the pack. Andy Wilczek just loses control of that Flying Lizard Porsche. Heavy impact, unfortunately.
That brought out a full course caution. Took us a little while to get back to running. When we did, this contact was at the very front of the GT4 field, and a couple of front runners involved. Yesterday's winner, Raj Schwest. Yesterday's pole sitter, Todd Coleman. Both suffered in that one. Once we got back to racing, this was the sprint to the checkered flag, with Memo Gidley holding off the hard-charging James Sofronis. Memo Gidley celebrates his first win of 2023, and the hometown hero Jason Bell, the winner in GT4. Back once again to Amanda.
Our Masters winner here this weekend, Andy Pilgrim, and I know I told you off camera that your co-driver that we'll see you guys together later in the year, but Anthony Bartone got fastest lap. What did you guys learn this weekend that you'll take forward?
Oh, that slippery racetracks are really difficult. I mean, you know, in the confines of concrete, need to be respected. It was difficult driving. The cars were working really hard to stay, and guys did a really good job. Unfortunately, some guys just didn't have a great weekend. But I got to say, Anthony's driving so well. He's learning so fast. I'm proud to be helping the kid along.
Thank you, Andy. I know you're making your way to the podium. We'll see you there.
Fantastic weekend of racing here in St. Petersburg. If you like what you saw, we'll have more of it and a whole lot more in the next round of the season in Sonoma. Hope to see you folks there. For Cal and Amanda, my name's Ryan. So long from St. Petersburg.